get all cleaned up and put away.
All right, welcome back. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Caleb. I'm an advocate here at Cult Advocacy, and welcome back. We do this every single week, and so if you're new here, welcome. We're glad that you found us here on Facebook and YouTube, where we stream and talk about all things special needs related. So if you have a loved one, special needs, disabilities, all of that. So if you have a loved one who has autism, Down syndrome, or maybe an elderly family member who's disabled and you're caring for them, these are all the things that we talk about. We talk about programs and resources and things that might be able to help you make your life a little bit better in some ways, right? So today we've got a cool topic. I'm gonna flip it right here. We're gonna talk about preparing for the future. So we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but we're going to be bringing it back to some of the basics here, because I think there's a lot that people there's a lot to learn when you are first introduced to the world of special needs or caring for somebody with a disability of some sort, right? And so that's going to be our topic for the day. However, we have big announcements we're going to start with. Well, an announcement, big news, which you already all probably are aware of. I can see several of you are already tuning in. We got a good chunk of people. So like always, before we begin, if you can take a moment to like the stream, love it, share it with somebody, or tag a support group or somebody in the comment section who might benefit from hearing about some of this information, that really helps us push these streams out and get more people in so that we can have a conversation in the comment section. I would love to try and answer any question that you have if you have questions or something fun that you might want to share, or maybe not so much fun and you just want to kind of get it out there for people to hear. You are more than welcome to share whatever you're comfortable sharing. We love hearing your stories and the things that you guys are all going through, to see how we might be able to help provide some advice or counsel or whatever it may be. Or again, even if it's just a question, you can ask about Regional Center, IHSS, IEP related stuff, anything of that nature, really. So let me know how everybody's doing. Give me a shout out in the comments. Give me a virtual high five or a thumbs up to let me know you're doing okay and you guys can hear me and see me okay. Or just say hello, because I'll say hello back. All right, so we have a really good chunk of people. We're going to talk about it. We're going right into it. And a lot of you probably are prepared and ready to hear it. We're going to talk about the budget. Yes, the big old May budget that has been on everybody's mind for the last month or two now, since it was introduced as an idea. And all of the cuts that they were planning on making and talking about and proposing here in the state of California, to Medi-Cal, to IHSS, to all of these things. And so we're going to talk about it. I'm going to start by saying there's a bit of a celebration in order. So for those of you who have been following along and kind of keeping track of how this budget conversation has been going, there was a lot of scary stuff that was proposed that was going to change, or potentially going to change due to this proposal. And some of these were going to be really big changes that would negatively impact hundreds of thousands of families here in California. And so I have some wonderful news to share, that a lot of what was proposed that we were worried about is being rejected, not going to be pushed through. So if you are happy to hear that, give me a yes in the comment section. I want to hear it. If you have read the information yourself, let me know what you are most happy to see. I'm going to pull it up in front of me too, so I have all of that information. So we're going to go through it a little bit. So to talk and tap into briefly kind of one of the biggest things that a lot of people who follow our stream here wanted to learn more is how IHSS was going to be affected. Moni, you said yes. All right. I share the excitement. So, excuse me. So one of the big things was going to be capping the hours of IHSS overtime for providers. So it was proposed to be 50 hours originally, and then they basically changed things and made it to where, as a provider, you could only claim up to 50 hours per week. It was a big mess. Not a great proposal, not their best work. and it would have impacted so many people who have IHSS. And for those who were on exemption 2, where you're claiming hours for multiple recipients, it would have impacted you even more. And so the fact that they have said no to this, they're not putting a cap on that this right now, according to this budget, that's a big victory in the world of special needs and disabilities for people who have IHSS. And so if you are stoked about that, let me know. Jessica is, absolutely. Jenna, you said great news. Is this final? I hear Newsom still needs to not veto it. To my understanding, yes. I don't understand exactly how it works. So I believe there's still a vetoing process. But this is a very good start to recognize that the proposal was not good. And it's been heard loud and clear that this would be a negative step in the wrong direction. Is that a double negative? It would be a step in the wrong direction, which would then be negative. And so I think we can all be really hopeful now about maybe the reality of what's next. But I don't think it's necessarily final, but I think it's close to being final. Teresa, if you're watching, if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know. Myra, you said big win. I agree. That cap on IHSS was definitely, I think, one of the biggest talking points for a lot of people, because that's IHSS is your livelihood if you have somebody with special needs. We know how difficult and challenging it can be to care for somebody with special needs. So for you to be questioned and almost quantified on how much the state feels like you should be compensated for doing this caregiving job, it was just wrong on many levels. And so we're so grateful that it looks to be rejected. One change to IHSS is the CFCO Medi-Cal change. So they did change one thing where it's not going to impact you too much. It could indirectly, sort of. So basically, IHSS, they have to pay fees basically for being late on certain things, like conducting an annual assessment. So if you have IHSS, you know that you're subject to an annual assessment every single year, and they have to do that under a specific time frame. And so one of the changes, to my understanding, and Dakota or Teresa, if either of you are watching, you're welcome to correct me if I'm misunderstanding this, but the state technically would have to pay a fee, a late fee, if they didn't conduct business up to a certain point, like an annual reassessment. And so what's changing is with the CFCO Medi-Cal status program, where basically they terminate you if they don't meet that deadline, which happens when you reschedule an assessment. So if they say, hey, we're coming out next Friday, and then you say, ooh, I can't do next Friday, and you reach out to the social worker and you say, hey, that date doesn't work, and then the social worker says, well, we have to. That's like the deadline for me to do the assessment this year. A lot of you have probably heard, oh, well, then we have to terminate your benefit, right? And so they're making it to where it's the fee is gonna be split between IHSS and the state, to my understanding. So what that could do is it could mean that they're going to be a lot more pushier with doing reassessments and certain things like that by a specific timeline. Their timeline is going to be more important to yours because they don't want to have to pay those late fees, right? So that is one change that I think could be impacting us as a community, but we're already sort of seeing that. So I don't know how different it's going to be, because right now we're already seeing cases get denied because they rescheduled their assessment, right? So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how it moves forward. Jenna, thanks. Chaotic times. I agree. One of the other things was Medi-Cal. So one of a big proposal in this was the Medi-Cal changes. So there's still a lot up in the air for the immigration status discussion, which I'm not going to tap into too much because that's not where I have too much knowledge on, but Nicole may do that in her live at 1 o'clock if you speak Spanish. County and state pay the late fee. Okay, yes, that's what I had gathered. Thank you, Teresa. But yeah, so as far as Medi-Cal eligibility, so they were proposing to reduce the income asset or the asset limit from 120,000 as an individual down to 2,000 again, which is what it used to be back in 2022 and before that. And so when they raised it to the 120,000 and then 190 or whatever or 175 for couples, that was a big relief for a lot of people who couldn't afford traditional healthcare but weren't technically considered poor enough to the state to get Medi-Cal. And so that was a great positive to Medi-Cal, to the people who needed it here in California. So for them to try and go backwards again, it was just another way of, again, us saying that this proposal doesn't make any sense. It does not. It's not going to be helpful. It's going to do more harm than good. And so from what we've gathered, they have also rejected that. So it looks like they might have even increased the asset limit a little bit. Dakota or Teresa, you can clarify for me if you'd like. But it looks like it's going to remain up to where ballpark where it is right now. So that's a good big positive outcome of this as well. Hello, Miss Rosita. Thanks for being here. So yeah, if you've got a question, a comment, you want to say something in the comment section, go for it. Type away. I am here to shout you out if you've got something to share or if you've got a question. I'm just glad you all are here. Happy Friday. Hope you are enjoying the sun. Forgive me, my voice is a little raspy. I've been sick this week, so I'll do my best to get through this as quickly as I can. Smoothly, rather, I should say. All right. So that's a bit of the update. So I'm not going to go through all of the changes. We could spend 45 minutes doing that if you want to. I'd rather have Dakota, my counterpart here, to enjoy going over some of these things with me. So today we're going to probably reserve the budget conversation as a topic itself for another time, so we have some time to prepare for it a little bit. But you're welcome to ask questions. You're welcome to throw something out there if you want to go over it. I do have some of the changes and stuff listed in front of me, but those were some of the big ones that we felt were the most talked about on our side of the community in the special needs disability world, caregiving world. And so, yeah, let me know again what you guys think, because we're stoked. Julia, you said thank you for your information. Happy Friday. Thank you for being here, Julia. Happy Friday to you. All right, so we did feel that this with this big news, a good transitional topic we can jump into is the discussion of why we are celebrating in the first place. Why are we celebrating this big bill that is not going to be moved forward on the way that they were hoping it would, the state would? We are celebrating as a community because of what we're all here for, right? We're here for our loved ones who have special needs. And so these proposals that they pump out are not in favor of us. They're not in favor of our loved ones with disabilities that we care for. They're in favor of how the state can save money, which we know is an important thing, but at what cost, right? And so we're here to celebrate this together as a big community, which brings us back to the basics a little bit. There are still a lot of people who find our weekly lives that just got the diagnosis of autism for their child, or they just learned about their child's disability, which is a rare genetic condition, and they're lost. They don't know where to turn to, and they maybe came across one of our videos or came across a support group where they were doing a Google research about the topic they're looking for. And I think it'd be good to maybe go back to, again, why we're celebrating and how we get to this point, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about where to turn, what to do at the very beginning, and how to plan and prepare for forever, right? For the future. So this is going to be information for those who are new to the world of special needs. Maybe you just got the diagnosis for your child, or maybe you're just now caring for a loved one who's disabled and you're not too sure about some of the benefits that are out there, or where to turn. And then, of course, kind of some long-term stuff, maybe how you can benefit by learning those next steps in the future, right? Stuff you can do today and stuff you can do later on as well. Myri said, does anyone have kids at Chino Hills Unified School District? If anybody in the comment section wants to reach out to Myra, sounds like she might have some questions for you. Myra, you're welcome to share what's going on in Chino Hills Unified School District. Lisa, you said, if you have Magi Medi-Cal, do asset limits apply with the proposals? So I could be wrong. Forgive me. I'm not a Medi-Cal expert, but I believe Magi, Teresa, call me out if I'm wrong. And Lisa, if you're watching, Lisa Ramsey, I believe Magi is like full scope Medi-Cal, technically. I think it's like the Medi-Cal in its totality, I think. I don't see anything specific to Magi. So I think Magi is the one with the asset limit, I think. So it's one or the other. It's either MAGI is the one with the asset limit, or MAGI is the one that's given to an elderly individual who's 65 years or older that can qualify, where their assets are not counted. So I can't remember which one it is. It's one of those. Sorry, Lisa. Felicia, I have a question about IHSS sick hours. Do we have to claim them by a certain time? You claim IHSS sick hours if you are sick and eligible to claim them, right? So you can't claim them unless you are sick and utilizing them for the right purpose. So there are some misconceptions there. There is some information that floats around where people say it's going to be your hours don't roll over. You don't get, if you have 40 hours of sick time this year, and then by July 27th they give you, a new runaround of 40 hours, it's not going to roll over, and now you have 80 hours of sick time pay. So when people hear about that, they want to claim the sick time because it's available, but basically you can't claim it on top of the hours you're already claiming. So if you're not sick and they just are going to fall off, then they're going to fall off. You can't claim them as an additional paycheck just because they're available. So the sick time is only there to be used when you are sick or unavailable, and you have somebody else be that provider to claim the rest of those hours. So hopefully that helps, Felicia. Teresa said, so the loophole the counties do is if they can't get a case through in a year, they drop people off the CFCO and then immediately restart it so they have more time to go out for the assessment. So when a social worker says they can come out to the home today, they will have to cancel your IHSS. That is what they mean. So that is the termination that they refer to. So they're just going to switch you over. And again, it's a CFCO Medi-Cal term program, but that is what we were talking about earlier about maybe how the pressure is going to be on a little bit more because the county is going to be responsible for 50% of the fee now if they're late on things. Thank you, Teresa. Jessica, what is the best way for a parent to know for certain when the assessment time is? So with your IHSS case, typically it's every 12 months, roughly. So around the 12-month mark of every year, they will come back out and do the assessment. So if your assessment was June of this year, you can expect that your assessment's probably going to be June of next year, roughly, give or take a month or so, right? So that's what they aim for. It's not the same for everybody. It is going to be dependent on the social worker's caseloads, right? So if they're super, super busy, they might be really late, or the contrary, they might bump you up ahead of everybody else and do your assessment 3 months early. So you'll know for certain, though, because you must be notified ahead of time. So IHSS either has to write you a letter in the mail saying, hey, your assessment's going to be on this date in the future, or your social worker will call you and say, hey, I'm proposing this date. Does it work for you? So you will be notified. You have to be notified. And if you're not notified, then you do have the right to reschedule. You don't have to do it that day if they show up and you're not available. So, but yeah, usually it's going to be around the same time every year. And so if it's your first time, it's usually going to be around the time that you applied. So if you applied in January of this year, and then a couple months later, March, you end up having your assessment, and then a month later you get your notice of action. Now it's April or May. You're going to probably have an annual assessment sometime around January or February because that's when you applied. And then the following year, it'll be around the same time, January, February. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question, Jessica. Myra, I've been fighting the district for over 3 years for accommodations for my daughter. I have attended 19 IEP meetings with zero resolution. It sounds like you're in need of an advocate or an attorney, Myra. If your child's entitled to accommodations according to what the laws, the education laws state, then it's as simple as knowing how to use those regulations in your favor through mediation. And so if you are unable to do that on your own, which there's no shame in that at all, I would highly recommend you seek counsel. You're welcome to call our office. You're welcome to call another advocacy group or a lawyer who specializes in education law. But I'm sorry that you're going through that. You're definitely not alone. You are not alone at all. Working against the school districts for things like accommodation is very, very difficult. It's heartbreaking. It's disheartening. It's overwhelming. And some people, it does take them many years to get their IEP where it needs to be, and for the school to be providing the services that they need for that child. Sarah, my son is 15. severely autistic. I don't think there's really a preparing for forever. I have no idea who's going to care for him after my husband and I pass away someday. So that is the question. That is what you prepare for. So I'm glad you're here, Sarah. I've got a lot to say about that. So, and real quick, Teresa, you said Magi is the one that doesn't have the asset limits, and income only. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Teresa. All right, so Sarah, this is right in line with what our topic is today. Okay, so I'm going to speak specifically to you for a moment and answer your question. So, if you live here in California, your son can have regional center. I'm guessing he does. I'm guessing he's a client of the regional center. So because he's a client of the regional center, that means that he is going to be receiving things that other people won't have forever. So the purpose of regional center, a lot of people are looking at things like respite services, free diapers, personal assistant, helping pay for ABA therapy, and things like that. Those are all great services a regional center offers. But ultimately, the regional center there in his life is for a much bigger purpose. And so God forbid something were to happen to you or your husband, like you said. But because he's a client of the regional center is going to be obligated to make sure he has a home for the rest of his life. Okay. So it is now up to you to start that forever plan. So you can create a plan that's going to take care of him for whether he's being cared for by you or somebody else. And so it's important to work with an estate planning attorney, a lawyer who specializes in long-term planning for somebody who's a client of the regional center. And they're going to establish a trust, a will, and all of the tools that you're going to need to prepare and plan for your son's future. Okay, so that yes, if and when one day you're no longer there or available to be his caregiver, you're already going to have a plan designed in place to take care of him forever. There's also the conversation piece of financial advisory. So if you're receiving IHSS and you're getting $5,000 a month from IHSS, I would highly recommend you speak to a financial advisor about your backup plan and your long-term plan as well, because they can also help you with things like life insurance. They can help you with having your money go to certain umbrellas that you have set up through your estate planning process so that that person can be cared for forever. There's a lot of great things you can do. The other thing I was going to recommend is, oh my gosh, I had something on the tip of my tongue. Conservatorship is one thing. So having multiple conservators when he's 18, right? So that way, if you're not available and you have somebody else who's going to step in and be that caregiver one day, they can be a conservator, things like that. There was one other thing I was going to say. It wasn't conservatorship. It was, buying a home in their name. So there are home loan programs. I don't know of the names of them or what's available right now, but every couple of years, California and other states will roll out home loan programs for special needs loved ones. So you can technically, if there's any available right now, buy a home using a home loan that is similar to that of a VA loan, similar benefits. And that home can be in that person's name. And that could be a part of your backup plan. So that again, if and when regional center has to take over for the care, they don't have to find him a group home. They don't have to find him a facility or whatever. There's already a home in his name, and they can provide caregivers for that space. So there's a really cool way you can design a forever plan for him. So if you have more questions on that, Sarah, let me know. You're also welcome to reach out to our office, talk with Myra, talk with myself. I am happy to point you in the right direction if you have some more questions on that. Moni, my biggest concern is that something happens to me and my daughter is on her own. Am I the only family she has? Does Regional Center help with placement? Yes. So that is exactly what we're talking about. Regional Center can take over the care for you, whether they're an adult or a child. Well, in a sense, take over. Basically, what they do is they find a home available. So Regional Center has facilities and group homes and things that are sort of like Regional Center. I don't want to say licensed by the Regional Center, but they're a part of the Regional Center umbrella. So what you can do is you can actually go to Regional Center now and talk to your caseworker and say, hey, God forbid something were to happen, what is lined up for my child right now? What are they approved for as far as a facility goes or a group home? They will tell you what they've approved your child for. They'll say, oh, well, your child's approved for a 4L group home. I don't know, I can't remember the right term for it, but 4L, if that's the right one, is like the top. That means your child's going to receive around the clock care, 1 or 2, staff members on them at all times, right? They can't be in a home with more than 1 or 2 people in it, right? There's a lot of like specifications like that in different levels of group homes and facilities and things that they can have that person be a part of if they qualify for those things. And so it's good to get ahead of that now, figure out what did regional center approve them for, and then you have the right to agree or disagree. They may say, oh, well, we have little Timmy approved for a group home where he can live with 15 other people that are just like little Timmy. And in your mind, you're like, that's not going to work, right? And so you can tell them that that's not an appropriate backup plan, right? So yes, regional center can step in and help be that next step for him if something were to happen. Kutta, does the statement from his teacher in ABA who works with my 3-year-old help a case for protective supervision? He elopes and climbs constantly and puts non-food items in his mouth. Yes. So when you're applying for something like protective supervision, you're gonna need some evidence. You're gonna need some paperwork. And so statements, letters, any documents that come from professionals in this child's life at this age is going to be helpful. So it's going to depend on what they say and their experience with the individual to kind of determine the weight of the documents. But yes, these things typically can be helpful. Oh my goodness, so many questions. You guys are awesome. I'm going to try and get through them all. If I gave the social worker documents before NOA was issued, if I gave the social worker documents before an NOA was issued, she's supposed to look at everything and not just deny it off of an observation, correct? And age, correct. I told the social worker I wanted everything through the email and not phone. So some counties don't even operate through email with their social workers. So if that's not an option, then that's not an option. And so they are supposed to determine the eligibility for IHSS, protect supervision, based on a number of things. Observation is one of them. Documents is another. And so they're supposed to utilize all these things. Now they can put value in certain things and not value others. So if you gave them 100 different pieces of evidence, they're probably going to filter through that and say, I don't need this. I don't need that. This is a letter from grandma. I don't care what grandma says, throwing that out, right? So yes, there are some things that they will use as an approval, a way to approve, a way to deny, but they have to use all of these things. Now, age was the other part of your question. Age cannot be a factor to deny, but age can be a factor in determining what categories they're approved for. Sorry, hold please. Stay. Shh. This little rascal's running around. So if you have a very young child, they're not going to probably get approved for certain categories like meal preparation or cleaning the house, doing laundry. So age can be a factor when determining what parts of the benefit they qualify for or don't qualify for, but age can't be the reason they were denied the benefit. And then protect supervision, that category, that has no age restriction at all. So you can't deny based on age because for protect supervision. Janet, can you please explain the California budget that Galt Advocacy posted? Yeah, so we briefly tapped into that a little bit, Janet. So again, we went over some of the big announcements early on. So the things that we talked about that are probably the most important for maybe a lot of you who are watching, and let me know if there's something else you wanted to go over, but one of them is going to be the overtime, the cap on the hours with IHSS. So all the things that they were proposing there, they rejected. They're not going to go forward on that so far from what we know. So we don't have to worry about people being maxed out at 50 hours a week with IHSS anymore. It does not look like that's going to go through. So that is a big celebration. And so we're so happy to hear about that news. The other one was how IHSS is going to have to start paying for some of the deadline late fees. So a lot of people are already rushed and pushed to do an assessment and then ridiculed if you have to reschedule it, right? And so we talked about how because IHSS is going to have to cover some of those late fees, they might be a little bit even more pushier on getting things done at a certain time frame, which I don't think a lot of people actually are going to complain too much about, because I think we complain more about how slow IHSS can be. So I don't know, we'll see. And then the other big thing was Medi-Cal. It looks like asset income limits, they're not going to decrease like they originally proposed. And so that's another big celebration. Kuta, my 3-year-old has Alta, so Alta Regional Center. They approved him for life, they said, that he qualified because of 4 things. So to break down what Kuta's stating, for those who maybe don't know, so Regional Center is something that can be with somebody forever, for as long as they live in California. So if you live in California and you qualify at age 3 for Regional Center, you're locked in until, well, forever, basically. So they can't just disqualify you Regional Center. Technically, they have done that, but technically they're not supposed to. So if you grow out of the need of Regional Center, that's not really like your problem. You're locked in. You were given approval for Regional Center because of certain things. And so for Kuta, it was 4 things. So what they're referring to is there's a list of criteria that they look at, and you have to be limited in 3 of the 7 areas that they look at. And it sounds like your child was limited in 4 out of the 7. So yes, they should have Regional Center for as long as they're here in California. All right, can we watch this again when the live is over so my husband can watch too? I will try. So we do save all of our live streams, however Facebook does. They'll be saved on YouTube too. Teresa, you're welcome to chime in here. We've been having some trouble with our live streams not being saved, where they get removed after a certain period of time. But yes, hopefully it'll be around for your husband to watch. Irma, I agree. Hello, Laura. Welcome. Sarah, is it at age 16 when I legally get a conservatorship of my son, or wait until he's 17? So you can't have a conservatorship over somebody until they're an adult. However, you can start the process. We recommend starting it around age 17 and a half. That's when you should start maybe consulting with an attorney or a paralegal or somebody who specializes in it. But it wouldn't go into effect until they're 18. Teresa said you can also make a list of what your child or adult would need and give it to Regional Center. Special toy, regulation assistant, favorite music. Yes, so Teresa's referring to that backup plan, right? So like, for instance, my sister, Emily, she has a couple of kind of, she has Down syndrome paired with many other conditions as well. There's a lot of hokey things about her routine that nobody would know about unless they knew my sister Emily inside and out. And if she didn't have some of those things in place, she would have not a very good time. And she would make the caregiver not have a very good time. And so there are things that Regional Center has kind of in the backup plan, knowing that if they're going to be responsible for her, they have to provide this, that, and this. And, several years ago, one of the things that my parents added in was this Toy Story doll, the Woody doll. My sister Emily, for years, ever since she was a child, carried around this Woody doll. She had it with her for 25 plus years. I don't know if she still carries it around anymore these days, but that was listed in the Regional Center backup plan. It was like, hey, if something were to happen and Emily had to go, be out of home, placed out of home, she's going to need her Woody doll. If she doesn't have her Woody doll during that process, bad things are going to happen. And so little things like that, which might be kind of quirky and silly, but if you feel like it's important to your child to thrive, tell Regional Center to include that as one of the many contingencies there, so that they can be appropriately cared for. Sorry, this guy's causing a ruckus. Sit. Stay. Thank you. Jessica, this was good information to hear. We're turning 13 and 50 August. King is acting like a man. Turning 80, he has questions. Oh boy. All right, Laura, I see your timesheet question. Let's connect privately, Laura. I'll see if I can help you out. Sarah, should I put my house under my son's name, who's severely autistic, so he can live there forever, even if I pass away? Ultra worker. So I am not going to tell you to do anything, but I will recommend that you seek counsel from an expert in that field. So that would be somebody under the estate planning world. So somebody that we've shouted out a bunch of times here is Ellen Cookman. She's an estate planning attorney that specializes in the world of special needs. She knows it very, very well. She's located, up here in Northern California, but I think she can work across the state, to my knowledge. But I would absolutely, before you do anything, I would consult with an expert who can tell you what to do in regards to your home. And so there are some things that may need to go in place first before you add their name to the deed. And that may not even be necessary for you to add their name to the deed. That's what wills and trusts are for, to hopefully maybe make it a little bit, simplified. There's also a tax element there. there's a lot of things that you need to go over. And so I would recommend consulting with an estate planning attorney and quite possibly a financial advisor to know what to do in that situation. If you want some more help, you are more than welcome to reach out. I'd love to try and see if I can give you some advice. All right, Irma, welcome being here. And Teresa says, yes, Facebook is removing the lives after a month. It's a new policy. So we're trying to repost our videos as much as we can. Thank you, Teresa. Oh my goodness, so many questions, guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks for sharing the stream and liking it and loving it. So glad you guys are all here. I know we didn't really get, we kind of jumped into our topic a little bit, but a lot of your questions are around our topic. So I'm really glad. That's why I've kind of strayed away from it a little bit. Yeah, we might have to do another live on this one because you have so many questions. Great questions. And Paro, my daughter has Down syndrome, so the yearly assessment is in the next few days. She has Protect Supervision. They asked for a copy of the IEP, Regional Center Assessment and Behavioral Therapy Assessment. I don't know if that's a question, but I'm glad you're here. And hopefully it all goes well. Hopefully the information that you share with them is accurate. I know that a lot of times IEPs and assessment reports, they don't have information in there that's helpful for Protect Supervision at times. So if you have some questions on that, on how can we support you, I'd love to see how we can. I gave my son's social worker his SSI documents that he was deemed disabled. She said she doesn't need it and was not putting it in his case. It's not necessary. I mean, she can make a note of it. The SSI paperwork isn't going to do a whole lot for the case itself, unless there's like a full-blown assessment. So if there's an assessment through SSI that was used, then that can go on the case. Absolutely. I mean, you can have whatever you want in your file, your IHSS file at the county. And so if you tell your social worker, I want this added in, please take a copy of it, then they have to, sort of. But they're not going to base their decision solely off of the SSI eligibility and what they wrote. There are going to be other things that they're going to need. Jamie, so my son has NF1. Jamie, we got a lot to talk about. My son has NF1. And for those of you who don't know, NF1 is, if it's the same NF1, neurofibromatosis type 1, and autism. With that, he has a lot of doctor's appointments and misses a lot of school due to the doctor's appointments and being tired because of his disability, so I'm not able to get a job. I only get 50 hours in IHSS, and I have applied for PS, but I've been denied for him being self-directed. But he doesn't know anything but his name. He elopes, puts non-food things in his mouth and more, so I'm just wondering what else can I do? Can't make it much longer without a job. Jamie, reach out to our office. NF1 is something that is very close, dear to our hearts. That diagnosis, NF1, is the reason why Galt advocacy exists today, actually. That was something that, so Myra Galt, the founder of Galt advocacy, she had a son. His name was Ryan. And Ryan, he had NF1 and an intellectual disability. And the medical anomalies that came with his NF1 ended up taking his life at the age of 18. So he battled his condition and his disabilities all 18 years of his life, from the day he was born to the day he died. And it was because of his passing that Myra learned that there was a lot to know about this world of special needs that she didn't know. And she wanted to make sure no other family went 18 years too late like she did. And that was the birth of Galt advocacy. And so I'd love to connect with you, Jamie. I'd love to learn a little bit more about your son. And I'd love to see if maybe we can help you get him Protect Supervision, rather. I can help you qualify him just over the phone. I can tell you whether or not it's something that he does meet the criteria for, and we can go from there. I'd love to connect. Janet, you want to see my pet? He finally calmed down. But since you asked for it, this is Cheeto. And yes, he is a hot dog. He's a long-haired hot dog. He's a good boy. He's still a puppy. I think you guys probably saw him months and months ago when I first got him. Well, we got him as a family. He's my family's dog here, wife and daughter. He's a good boy. He is a good boy when he's not being crazy. But there you go. That's Cheeto, Janet, just for you. Okay, goodbye, sir. Sarah, what's Ellen Cookson's contact number? You said she does estate planning. Does she do conservatorships too? Great question. She does everything but conservatorships. So you would have to, we do have resources and other referrals for you as well if you want to connect with our office. Teresa, actually, it looks like Teresa's already linked the Cookman Laws website. So you can get everything you need to get in contact with Ellen and her staff over there on that website. So thank you, Teresa. And Teresa, if you have any information on like Chris Wen or any of the other attorneys we work with for conservatorships, if you don't mind linking those as well, that'd be really great. Oh, and then Teresa, you linked it for Sarah. Perfect. Oh, Miss Newton. I don't think that's your real name, but that's okay. Miss Fig Newton, I just realized that. You have NF1 in your household too. Welcome. It's definitely a rarer one. You know, I don't really speak to too many people who even know what it is. Let's get together. Let's talk about it. Both you and I think it was Jamie, right? Thank you guys for sharing that. I'd love to learn more about your experiences with it. Kuda, I gave her a copy through the email. She said she's not putting it in the case. She's picking and choosing what documents she wants to use. They're going to do that. Again, the SSI stuff most likely is not going to be all that helpful anyway. So again, unless there are like super detailed reports. So IHSS is, the social workers are trained to look for a couple of things: the IEP, behavioral reports with the school, behavioral reports with ABA, the IPP with regional center, and that's about it. Other than that, they request a couple of things from the doctor, right? So any of the other like gravy documents that you want to put on top of everything else, the social workers a lot of times will say no, because I won't get into that, but if you feel that this piece of document that you want to give is important for your case, then you sent her a copy through email. Perfect. So you covered your grounds. You sent it to her. She has a copy of it now. So it is up to her just to utilize it or not, use it or not use it. But you did your due diligence. You sent it. If you felt that it was important, you did what you needed to do. And then you said take it to hearing. Absolutely. You can use it as a piece of evidence if you wish. Jessica says hello. Cheeto says hello back. How to call Galt Advocacy. Teresa will link our number, maybe, hopefully. We're just almost about out of time. We've got a few more minutes. You can reach out to our office. Our office number is listed on our website. It's listed, I believe, here on Facebook. But I'd say reaching out to our office, you can get on my calendar or one of the other advocates' calendar. And so, Teresa, if you're able to post a comment with our number, that'd be great. Thank you, Estella. He is a cute little boy. Cute pup. Rosita, what are the negatives of not having a conservatorship for my disabled son who's 32 years old? So there's a lot there. I wouldn't say like there's pros and cons to a conservatorship necessarily. It's more of is it going to be a good fit for this person? Would it benefit them more than it would negatively impact them? So a conservatorship, since I'm not an attorney, I don't specialize in conservatorships. I'm not going to tell you to do anything. But if your son, who's 32 years old, can't make medical decisions, financial decisions, relationship decisions, or keep themselves safe in any way, a conservatorship is probably something I would entertain. If you don't have a conservatorship in place, technically, he is considered an individual in the state of California, meaning he's no longer considered your son. So, of course, to you, he's your son, absolutely. But for programs and benefits and support to the state of California, he's just a person. You're no longer, you being his mom doesn't matter anymore. That has no weight to anything. So he is supposed to make his own decisions on everything. So technically, if something were to happen, he got in trouble, he got hurt, they don't have to reach out to you to support him. So it's up to you on how you would want to go about that. There's a lot we can unpack there. But Rosita, if you're interested, I would just recommend reaching out to an attorney or a paralegal who specializes in it, conferring with them and seeing if it's something that would benefit your son. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Teresa. She linked CNN Law, which is Chris Wen law firm. He is a fantastic attorney for conservatorships. Reach out to him. Joni, you said, can you tell us if CalAble account funds are taken by Medi-Cal if your child passes away? That's a good question that I don't know the answer to. To my understanding, I would say I don't believe that that's how it works, but that's something we can look into and get back to you on. I think we should definitely do a kind of a financial live pretty soon, maybe. Teresa, let me know what your thoughts are on that. Kuta, I also gave her his ABA session notes, but she said she was only putting the 6-month progress report in the case. Yeah, again, bring it to a hearing. If you feel that if you've combed through it yourself and there's nothing in there that you think that they can use against his need for protect supervision or the benefit, then you can use it for an appeal. I would recommend calling us or an advocate or a lawyer prior to appealing, because that is a whole nother conversation. Monty, when my daughter turns 18, should I restart Medi-Cal? She's on the waiver now. She does not qualify for SSI because I work. She'll be 18 in 2 months. So when she turns 18, she can be rolled over into standard regular Medi-Cal without a waiver, assuming she doesn't have an income. And then SSI, absolutely, it's kind of the same thing. And then once she has SSI, she's automatically locked in with Medi-Cal, so you're good there. Elizabeth, does the Medi-Cal waiver through Regional Center have an age limit? Technically, no, because the institutional deeming waiver, it has many different factors to it and like reasons for it. So for the Medi-Cal aspect of it, that is just until they're 18 because of your income limit as the parents for the household. So when they're 18, that doesn't matter anymore. Hopefully that answers your question. Maybe we should have Ellen Cookman on. I think so. You're right where I'm at, Teresa. Give her a call. Get her on. Ellen's great. We love Ellen. We've had her on a couple times, and she has been incredible. Plethora of information for long-term planning. She's awesome. Sarah, can a severely impaired adult get SSI, Medi-Cal, and IHSS benefits? Yes, they can. They can get all of them, depending on if they qualify. But yes, typically you would have to be impaired or disabled. But yes, adult, minor, I don't know if that's exactly your question, but yes, Dan, yes. What you asked is a yes, I think. All right, everybody, we're about out of time. I got to run, but fantastic questions. I know this kind of turned into a Q&A, but a lot of your questions were around the topic. What I wanted to go over is just kind of planning for the future and forever. I do think that we should plan for that topic in the future, and I'm going to try my best not to address every single comment like I did today. But you guys all had such amazing questions. And so I'm so glad and thankful that you're all here. Thank you for tuning in at the very beginning where we got to celebrate a little bit about the good news and the budget. We don't have to worry right now about those things taking place. It looks like the state has heard your voices through the petitions and through all the support groups and all the phone calls that you've been making to the state and your county. It worked. It worked. They heard, and they know that that would have been a problem because we're a problem, right? We make it a problem if that's going to be a problem. So we're so happy and thrilled to hear about the news, and we're going to continue to report on it a little bit. If we hear anything new, we'll be sure to let you guys know and keep you in the loop. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Rosita. You guys are all great. Thank you so much for being here and asking great questions and sharing the stream and being here every single week. But with that said, thank you so much for tuning in and sticking around. We got some great topics coming to you here in the next few weeks. So if you're new here, we do this every Friday. So come back next Friday, 12 o'clock. If you speak Spanish, Nicole goes live in Spanish at 1 o'clock, where you can watch her information there. But with that said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful Friday. Enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.